28th of September 1904, Volume 6. Repressing oneself is worth more than acquiring a kingdom. This morning, since my most sweet Jesus was not coming, I went through a very hard time. I did nothing but repress and force myself, and I said to myself, what am I still here for? What is the value for me of this repressing myself continuously? While I was thinking of this, he came like a flash and said to me, repressing oneself is worth more than acquiring a kingdom. And he disappeared. End of the reading.
The 28th of September 1917, Volume 12. The acts done in the divine will are suns which illuminate all and will serve to put in safety those who have a little bit of goodwill. Continuing in my usual state, my sweet Jesus told me, my daughter, darkness is thick and creatures precipitate more. Even more in this darkness they are digging the abyss in which they will perish. The mind of man has remained blind, and it has no more light to look at good, only at evil. And evil will inundate him and will make him perish. So, where they believe to find safety, they will find death. Ah, my daughter, ah, my daughter. Then he added, the acts done in my will are like suns which illuminate all, and as long as the act of the creature lasts in my will, one more sun shines in the blind minds, and those who have a little bit of goodwill will find the light to escape from the precipice. All the others will perish. Therefore, in these times of thick darkness, how much good is done by the acts of the creature done in my will. For those who will escape, it will be only by virtue of these acts. Having said this, he withdrew. Then he came back again and added, I can say that the soul who does my will and lives in it is my carriage, and I hold the reins of everything. I hold the reins of her mind, of her affections, of her desires, and I leave not even one of them in her power. And sitting on her heart in order to be more comfortable, my dominion is complete, and I do whatever I want. Now I make the carriage run, now I make it fly, now it brings me to heaven, now I go around the whole earth, now I stop. Oh, how glorious and victorious I am! I dominate and I reign. But if the soul does not do my will and lives from the human will, the carriage falls apart. She takes the reins away from me and I remain without dominion, like a poor king who has been thrown out of his kingdom. And the enemy takes my place, while the reins remain at the mercy of her own passions. End of the reading.
The 28th of September 1921, Volume 13. Jesus is light, and everything that comes from him is light, which, diffusing in the midst of all creatures, becomes life of each one of them. Difference between the sanctity of the divine will and that of virtues, living in the sea or on earth. Continuing in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus made himself seen close to me, with his heart all in flames, and at each beat of his heart a light came out. These lights surrounded me completely and diffused over the whole creation. I remained surprised, and Jesus told me, my daughter, I am eternal light, and everything that comes from me is light. Therefore, it is not only my heartbeat that unleashes light, but each one of my thoughts, breaths, words, steps, and each drop of my blood are light, unleashed by me, which, diffusing in the midst of all creatures, become life of each one of them, wanting the return of their little lights. In fact, they too are light, because they too were unleashed from within my own light. However, Sin converts the work of the creature into darkness. My daughter, I love the creature so much that I conceived her in my breath, and I delivered her on my knees to let her rest on my lap and keep her safe. But the creature runs away from me, and not feeling her in my breath nor finding her on my lap, my breath calls her continuously. My knees are tired of waiting for her, and I keep searching for her everywhere to have her back with me. Ah, in what constraints of pain and love creatures put me. After this, since I had heard someone speak about humility, and I am convinced that this virtue does not exist in me, nor do I ever think about it, when my sweet Jesus came, I told him of my concern, and he said to me, "My daughter, do not fear. I raised you in the sea, and one who lives in the sea doesn't know much about earth. If one wanted to ask the fish what the earth is like, what its fruits, plants, and flowers are like, if they had reason, they would answer, 'We were born in the sea. We live in the sea. The water feeds us, and while others would be drowned in it, we dart and receive life from it. While water would freeze the blood in the veins of other beings, to us it gives warmth. The sea is everything for us. It serves us as room, as bed. We stroll in it. We are the only fortunate beings which don't need to tire themselves in order to find food. Whatever we want is at our disposal. Therefore, we can tell you about the sea, but not about the earth. Water is all we need. In it, we find everything." But if instead one asked the same to the birds, these would answer, "We know plants, the heights of the trees, flowers and fruits." They would tell of how much they toil in order to find a seed to be nourished or a hiding place to be sheltered from cold or rain. The simile of the sea is for one who lives in my will. The simile of the earth is for one who walks along the path of virtues. Therefore, since you live in the sea of my will, it is no wonder that my will alone is enough for you in everything. If water serves and does different offices for the fish, food, warmth, bed, room, and everything, much more so can my will do it in a more admirable way. Even more, in my will, virtues are at the most heroic and divine degree. My will absorbs everything and melts everything within itself, and the soul remains absorbed in my will. She feeds herself with it. In it she walks. She knows my will alone, and my will is enough for her in everything. One can say that among all, she is the only fortunate one who does not need to beg for bread. No, but the water of my will inundates her above and below, to the right and to the left. If she wants food, she eats. If she wants strength, she finds it. If she wants to sleep, she finds the softest bed to rest. Everything is ready at her disposal. End of the reading.
The 28th of September 1926, Volume 20. Louisa's Great Affliction because of the printing of the writings. Jesus wants that they be entrusted to his care. Jesus pushes the Father who must occupy himself with the printing. I was feeling oppressed and as though crushed under the weight of a profound humiliation, because I had been told that not only what regards the will of God must be printed, but also what regards all the other things that my lovable Jesus has told me. My pain was such as to take away from me even the words, to be able to say something so that they would not do it. Nor was I able to pray my beloved Jesus that he would not allow it. Everything was silence, inside and outside of me. Then my lovable Jesus, moving in my interior, clasped me to himself to infuse in me courage and strength, and he told me, "My daughter, I do not want you to look at what you have written as your own, but to look at it as mine, and as something that does not belong to you. You must not enter into it at all. I will take care of everything, Therefore, I want you to entrust it to my care. And as you write, I want you to give it to me as a gift, that I may be free to do whatever I want, and you may be left only with what you need in order to live in my will. I have given you as many precious gifts for as many knowledges as I have manifested to you. And you want to give me no gift? And I, my Jesus, forgive me. I myself would not want to feel what I feel. Thinking that what has passed between me and you must be known to others makes me restless and gives me such pain that I myself cannot explain. Therefore give me strength. In you I abandon myself, and I give everything to you. And Jesus added, Good, my daughter, it is my glory, the triumph of my will that requires all this. But it demands that its first triumph be over you. Aren't you happy to become the victory, the triumph of this supreme will? Do you not want, then, to make any sacrifice so that this supreme kingdom may be known and possessed by creatures? I too know that you suffer very much in seeing that after long years of secrecy between me and you, in which I have kept you hidden with so much jealousy, our secrets are now coming out. You feel your strong impressions. But when it is I who want it, you too must want it. Therefore let us be in agreement, and do not worry. Then after this he made me see Reverend Father, and Jesus being near him, placed his holy right hand on his head to infuse in him firmness, help, and will, saying to him, My son, hurry, do not lose time. I will help you, I will be near you, so that everything may go according to my will. Just as I care that my will be known, and just as I have dictated the writings about the kingdom of the supreme fiat with paternal goodness, so will I help with the printing. I will be in the midst of those who will occupy themselves with it, so that everything may be regulated by me. Therefore hurry, hurry. End of the reading.
The 28th of September 1927, Volume 23. How there can be no imperfections in the divine will, and one must enter into it completely naked. One who does not do the divine will destroys the divine life within himself, and this is a crime that deserves no pity. How the divine will alone is rest. Scourges. I was feeling all abandoned in the supreme fiat, but in the midst of the perfection of a will so holy, I felt imperfect, bad, and I thought to myself, how can it be that my beloved Jesus tells me that he makes me live inside his divine volition, and yet I feel I am so bad? And my adored Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, My daughter, in my divine will, there can be neither imperfections nor badness. My will has the purifying virtue and destroyer of all evils. Its light purifies, its fire destroys even the root of evil. Its sanctity sanctifies the soul and embellishes her in a way that she must serve to make it happy and to let it take all its delights with one who lives in it. Nor does it admit to live in my divine volition creatures who may bring imperfections and bitternesses within them. Those would be things against its nature, and therefore it could never admit them to live within itself. Rather, what you say are impressions of uglinesses, of imperfections, of badnesses, and my will uses them as footstool or as earth that it keeps under its feet. Without even looking at them, it thinks about enjoying its little daughter and placing on her lap its acts, its joys, its riches, to make her happy, so as to be able to enjoy from her happiness. My will gives what it has and does not admit within itself things, even the slightest, that do not belong to it. Therefore, one who wants to live in it must enter into it completely naked, because the first thing that my volition does is to clothe the soul with light, embellish her with divine raiments, and impress on her forehead the kiss of perennial peace, of happiness, and of firmness. What is human has nothing to do within it. It has neither life nor a place, and the soul herself feels such disgust for what does not belong to my volition that she would lay down her life rather than take part in what does not belong to the sanctity of my divine will. Then I continued my abandonment in the divine fiat, and my sweet Jesus added, "My daughter, my divine will was given from the very beginning of creation as life of the creatures, and it took on the commitment to maintain this life in them, whole, beautiful, in its full vigour, administering in each active creature a divine act of its own, an act of the height of its sanctity, of its light, of its power and beauty. It would place itself in waiting for their act in order to give its own in such a way as to make it a portent of divine life, worthy of its power and wisdom. In order to comprehend this, it is enough to say that my divine volition was to form as many lives of itself in each creature, and therefore it would place the whole of its ability and the infinite qualities it possessed in the exercise of working. How beautiful these divine lives in the creatures would have been. In looking at them, we were to find in them our reflection, our image, the echo of our happiness. What joy, what feast creation would have been for us and for the creatures. Now, you must know that one who does not do my will and does not live in it wants to destroy his own divine life within himself that he was to possess. To destroy one's own life, what a crime. Who would not condemn one who wanted to destroy his own corporal life, or one who did not want to take food, reducing himself to being emaciated, infirm, incapable of anything? Now, one who does not do my will destroys his life that the divine goodness wants to give him. And one who does my will, but not always, and does not live in it because he lacks continuous and sufficient food, is the poor, ill one without strength, emaciated, incapable of doing true good. And if it seems that he does something, it is without life, strained, because my will alone can give it life. What crime, my daughter, what crime that deserves no pity. My lovable Jesus showed himself very tired, and as though restless, so great was his sorrow for so many lives destroyed in the creatures. I felt pain because of it, and I said to Jesus, "My love, tell me, what troubles you? You suffer very much. The destruction of these divine lives of your adorable will is your greatest sorrow. Therefore I pray you, let its kingdom come, so that this, your sorrow, may turn into joy, and so creation will no longer give you restlessness and sorrow, but rest and happiness." And seeing that with my speaking I could not get to calming him, I called to my help all the acts of his will done in creation, and omitting my own, I surrounded Jesus with the acts of his will. An immense light formed around Jesus, and that light eclipsed all the evils of creatures, and he could take rest. Then he added, "My daughter, my will alone can give me rest. If you want to calm me when you see me restless, lend yourself to the carrying out of the life of my will in you. And as you make all its acts your own, I will find in you its light, its sanctity, its infinite joys giving me rest. And I'll take a little break from chastising the creatures who, because of these divine lives that they destroy within themselves, so much deserve that I destroy all natural goods and even their very lives. Don't you see how the sea goes out of its shore and advances to snatch these lives into its bosom and bury them in it? The wind, the earth, almost all the elements advance to make a snatch at creatures and destroy them. These are the acts of my will spread in creation for love of them, that having not been received with love, convert into justice. I remained frightened in seeing this, and I prayed my highest good Jesus to placate himself and to let the kingdom of the divine fiat come soon. End of the reading.
The 28th of September 1928, Volume 24. One who lives in the divine will can form light. Each truth about it contains a happiness, one distinct from the other. My abandonment in the divine fiat is continuous. It seems to me that it does not leave me even for one instant, and I feel its light within me and over me, its creative strength, its life, that while it is inside of me, has always something to give me. And what does it give me? It gives me ever new light, new creative strength, new growth of its very life, in such a way that I feel like a sponge soaked with divine will. And even though my sweet Jesus keeps me almost without his adorable presence, or at most with a few fleeting flashes of it, the light of his divine fiat never leaves me. And if my poor heart feels it is about to be drowned because of the pain of being without him, the light of the fiat darts through me more strongly and eclipses the pain from me, and as I feel inseparable from it, it makes me follow its divine acts. So, while I was following the acts of the divine volition, my beloved and highest good, Jesus, coming out from within the light of his fiat, told me, "My daughter, as the soul places herself in the act of doing her act in my divine will, she places herself in the source of its light and forms her own light within it. And if you knew what it means to be able to form light, what glory, what honour for the creature to acquire the virtue of being able to form light. To no one is it given to be able to form light, only to one who lives in my divine will. In fact, my will nourishes the soul with light, and she, feeding on light, acquires the gift and the natural property of forming light. And oh, how delightful it is for us to see that the creature, within the source of our light, forms her own, to give it to us and say, 'Adorable Majesty, eternal light you are, and light you give me, and I bring you my little light as the greatest homage, the most intense love, that squeezing the sponge of my little being soaked with your light, forms my light for you, to give it to you.' So many beautiful scenes of light form between the soul and God, with the harmony of all the colours that the light possesses. What does light not possess? It possesses colours, sweetnesses, fragrances, flavours of all kinds. So the scenes alternate, one more beautiful than the other. Here it is then how the living in my divine fiat calls back within itself the beginning of creation and repeats for us the joys and the feasts of the beginning of it. The creature enters our order into our acts and gives us joys and happinesses, and we keep impressing our likeness upon her forehead. After this I was continuing my acts in the divine volition, and my sweet Jesus added, "My daughter, great graces have I given to you, and through you to the whole world, by manifesting to you so many truths about my divine will. In fact, not only are my truths divine lives that my highest goodness puts out, by locating this life of its own for as many truths as it manifests, but each of these lives contains a happiness, one distinct from the other, to be communicated to creatures, and a glory, one different from the other, that creatures can give to he who has manifested it. They are like as many queens, each of whom possesses properties, vast and distinct from one another, and they are waiting for the peoples to know that these queens exist, and that they contain their properties, and yearn and want to enrich and make happy the ones because of whom they were issued from our divine womb. And if you knew how suffocated our love remains, after having released so many happinesses from our paternal womb for as many truths as we have manifested, in seeing that creatures do not enjoy these feasts, nor give us the glory that they should give us, because they ignore such a great good, and only because they do not want to occupy themselves with making known a good and graces so great. This is a sorrow for us that you cannot comprehend. Therefore pray incessantly, that my divine will be known and reign in the midst of creatures, so that as Father I may break the bread of happiness for my children. End of the reading.
The 28th of September, 1929, volume 27. The first kiss, outpouring between mother and son. How all created things contain each its own outpouring. How for one who lives in the fiat, it is continuous creation. Divine contentment. I was doing my round in the creation and redemption. My little intelligence paused when my charming little baby, in the act of coming out of the maternal womb, flung himself into the arms of the celestial Mama, and feeling the need to make his first outpouring of love, he surrounded the neck of his Mama with his little arms and kissed her. The divine queen also felt the need to make her first outpouring of love toward the divine infant, and she returned to him the maternal kiss with such affection as to feel her heart come out of her chest. These were the first outpourings that mother and son made. I thought to myself, who knows how many goods they enclosed in this outpouring? And my sweet Jesus, making himself seen as a little baby in the act of kissing his Mama, told me, my daughter, how I felt the need to make this outpouring with my Mama. Indeed, everything that has been done by our Supreme Being was nothing other than outpouring of love. And in the Virgin Queen, I centralized all our outpouring of love that we had in creation, because since my divine will was in her, she was capable of receiving with my kiss this outpouring of ours so great, and of returning it to me. In fact, only one who lives in my divine will centralizes within herself the continuous act of all creation and the attitude of pouring it back into God. To one who possesses my divine will, I can give everything, and she can give me everything. More so since, as we issued the creation in an outpouring of love in order to give it to the creature, it lasts and will always last. And one who is in my divine will is as though present in our house, receiving the continuity of this outpouring of ours with the continuous act of all creation. In fact, in order to preserve it as we made it, it is as if we were always in the act of creating it and of saying to the creature, this outpouring of ours, of having created so many things, says to you, I loved you, I love you, and I will always love you. And the soul who lets herself be dominated by our divine volition, upon its wings, unable to contain this, our outpouring of love so great, also pours out and says to us, repeating our same refrain, in your will, I loved you, I love you, and I will always love you, always. In fact, aren't all created things outpourings of love that our fiat as first actor attested to the creature? Outpouring of love is the azure sky, and by remaining always stretched out, studded with stars, without ever fading or changing, it gives forth our continuous outpouring of love toward the creature. Outpouring of love is the sun, and it pours out our continuous love by filling all the earth with light, and all the effects it produces that are innumerable are continuous and repeated outpourings that it attests to the creature. Outpouring of our love is the sea, and as it murmurs, it repeats its gigantic waves, now placid, now stormy. And as it produces so many fish, these are nothing other than continuous outpourings of our love. Outpouring of our love is the earth, and as it rips open to produce flowers, plants, trees, and fruits, our love continues its ardent outpouring. In sum, there is not one thing created by us in which there isn't the continuous outpouring of our love. But who is aware of so many outpourings of ours? Who feels herself being invested by our creative strength and touches our inextinguishable flames with her own hand to the point of feeling the need to requite us with her own loving outpourings for her Creator? One who lives in our divine fiat. For her, it is continuous creation. She feels the power of our creative strength that operating in her makes her touch with her own hand how her Creator is in the act of creating continuously for love of her, making her feel his outpourings never interrupted in order to receive her requital. But who can tell you our contentment when we see that the creature, by possessing our divine fiat, receives and recognizes these outpourings of ours, and she, unable to contain the great excess of love of our divine outpourings within our very outpouring of love, forms her own outpouring towards her Creator. Then we feel as though repaid for everything we did in creation. We feel her in her delirium of love saying to us, "Adorable Majesty, if it were in my power, I too would like to create for you a heaven, a sun, a sea, and everything that you created, to tell you that I love you with your same love and with your own works, because a love that does not operate cannot be called love. But since your divine volition gave me everything of all that you created, I give it back to you to tell you that I love you. I love you." And so the harmony, the exchange of gifts, the order returns between Creator and creature as it was established by God in creation. Now you must know that by doing his will, man lost the order, the harmony, and he lost the rights of the gift of creation, because only in one in whom my divine will reigns, since my will is the creator of all creation, wherever it reigns, since the creation is its own, it gives it to the creature by right. But one in whom it does not reign can be called an intruder in its works, and therefore cannot act as the owner, nor give to God what does not belong to her, nor can she feel all the outpourings of love that exist in the creation, because she does not have our divine will in her possession that tells her our love story. Without our divine volition, man is the true little ignorant one of his Creator, and like the little pupil without teacher. Oh, how painful it is to see man without our fiat. More so, since our creation is our speaker, it is the bearer of our loving kisses, of our affectionate embraces. Oh, how my humanity felt all this while being on earth. As I would go outside, the sun would give me the kiss that my own will had deposited in its light in order to give it to creatures. The wind would give me the caresses, the embraces that it contained in deposit from my own divine will. All creation was brimful with divine charisms to give them to creatures, and my humanity received everything, giving in return so as to give vent to so many kisses repressed, embraces rejected, and love unrecognized for so many centuries. In fact, since my divine will was not reigning, man was incapable of receiving the good that my will itself had placed in all creation. And my humanity, possessing my same divine will, gave it the first outlet and received and gave the requital for everything that my same divine will had placed in all creation. And so this is why, as I would go outside, all created things would make feast, and competing with one another, they would give me what they possessed. Therefore, be attentive and take to heart only living in my divine will, if you want to feel vividly what your Jesus tells you about my supreme fiat. End of the reading.
The 28th of September, 1935, Volume 33. Divine love invests every act of the creature. How in all his works God calls everyone and does good to everyone. How divine life forms in the creature, how it is nourished and grown. I was following the acts of the divine will that transported me into a sea of interminable light, in which it made present to me with how much love God had loved the creature. It is so great that if one could understand it, his heart would burst with pure love, not being able to resist under the ardour, the stratagems, the industries, the finesses of this love of God. And I, being too little, these flames devour me. And my beloved Jesus, visiting my little soul in order to sustain me, told me, "My blessed daughter, let me pour out my love. Listen to me. You must know that the creature has always been with us in our divine mind. She has always had her place in the womb of her Creator, and ab eterno, her every act, thought, word, work and step was decorated with a special love of ours. In fact, in every act of hers there is the chain of so many of our acts of love, which involved the act, the thought, etc. of the creature. And this love of ours gives life, nourishes and repetitions of all her acts. And oh, how beautiful she is in our divine mind, because she is formed by the continuous breath of our love, wanted love, not forced, love not of necessity, but rather generative virtue of our Supreme Being that always generates and places its continuous love over her works. Virtue of our omnipotent fiat, that if it did not generate new works and did not have the continuous act of loving, it would feel as suffocated in its flames and paralyzed by its continuous motion. Now, wanting to put forth the creature from our divine womb, we make her do her little way in time, and our love never stops assailing, investing, courting all her acts with its special love. If this were lacking, she would lack the generative, vivifying strength and engine of the human being. Oh, if creatures only knew that in their every thought, word and work, as well as in their breath and heartbeat, runs a distinct love of ours. Oh, how they would love us, and would not profane with unworthy acts our love so great. See therefore how your Jesus loves you, and knows how to love you, and therefore learn from me to love me. This is the prerogative of our love, to always love everything that has come forth from us, to make all the acts of the creature rise from within our love. Jesus was silent, and I remained thinking about the excess of the divine love. And my beloved Jesus added, "My daughter, listen to me still. So much is our love that in every single work that we do, we call everyone as if they were one alone, in order to give to each one the good of the work that we do. We would not operate as God if our acts could not have the virtue of being able to give themselves to everyone in order to give the good that they contain. Therefore listen, my conception in the womb of a virgin was the greatest work in the whole history of the world. Only that our fiat wanted and my humanity was incarnated, without anyone forcing us or meriting it, without us having need of anyone. The need was our love, and only because it wanted it. It was an act so great that it enclosed and embraced everyone, and contains so much love that it gives of the incredible, so much so that the heavens and earth are amazed by it and still enraptured, and everyone feels invaded by so much love as to be able to feel my life conceived in everyone. See, therefore, where my love brings me to conceive, in every single soul, in every instant and always. Conceived one time, I am always conceived. Is it not as if I were conceived in the consecrated host, in every act of the creature who loves me and does my divine will? Now, it is not yet everything. If my love does not give in excesses so as to be able to say, "See how much I loved you. I have nothing more to do and give to you in order to love you," are you not content? Listen to where I arrive. Just as in the womb of the Holy Virgin I breathed through her breath, was warmed by her heat, nourished by her blood, so from the creature who possesses me I wait for the breath, the heat, the growth, in order to develop my life. But do you know in what straits my love places me? When the creature loves me, she gives me breath, she gives me heat. Every good that she does, if she prays, if she suffers for me, if she adores and glorifies me, she makes me grow. She gives me motion. She contributes to forming me in her soul, such that if she does not love me and gives me nothing, I feel I lack the breath, the heat, the nourishment, and I do not grow. Alas, in what conditions my love and the ingratitude of the creature places me. Now, if she gives me the good of letting me grow in a way as to let me fill all her soul with my life, oh, then I develop my life in her, I walk in her feet, I work in her hands, I speak in her voice, I think in her mind, I love in her heart, and I have my contentment. How happy I am! Nothing other remains of the creature than a veil that covers me. I am the owner, the actor. I form my field of action. I can do what I want. My divine will repeats its omnipotent fiat continuously. My love has received its conception. It goes into follies because it has formed its life in the creature. So there is nothing that I do, as much in creation, in redemption, in sanctification, in my sacramental life, in heaven and on earth, in which my love does not run with rapid flight, in order to give to everyone the good that I do, the sanctity of my works, such that no one can say, "This has not been done for me, I have not received this good," except those ungrateful ones who do not receive it. The fault is all theirs. My part is not lacking for anyone. But see where my love, the nourishment of my will, arrives at, even though they do not let me grow, making me lack the breath of their love. They make me numb with cold because their will is not with me. I arrive at remaining without garments as the most detestable and abject, because their works are not upright, holy, and far from pleasing to me alone, because they must serve me in order to cover me. Yet I do not depart, supporting so much human ingratitude and waiting with invincible patience and preparing a surprise of love. An additional grace strikes her in order to make me give what is necessary so as to make me grow in her soul, because, at whatever cost, I want to form my life in the creature. I use all the arts in order to obtain my intent, and many times I am constrained to place my hand to the scourges in order to make known that I am in her soul. My daughter, compassionate me and repair me for so much human ingratitude. I who am everything for them, I give them the continuous breath and heartbeat, the motion, the heat, the nourishment, and they, ungrateful ones, deny to me what I give to them. After having given them the great honour of forming my living temple, my royal palace on earth, what suffering, what pain! Therefore I recommend to you to not let me lack the breath of your love. Give me at least what is necessary for me in order to let me grow. Make it that my will be your life, in order to let me remain in your royal palace with decorum and with the sumptuousness that your Jesus merits. End of the reading. There are no more readings today. Have a blessed day.